What's going on, guys? My name is Christopher and welcome to It's Complicated, the show where I talk about and showcase wristwatches. Today, we're going to be showcasing the Omega Speedmaster Professional. That's right, the Moonwatch. Here we go. All right, here we have it, the Omega Speedmaster Professional. This is the Moonwatch. Omega makes a lot of different Speedmasters, but this is, I think, the absolute best one to get. Has the plastic crystal, the manual wind, and what a gorgeous piece it is. I paid $3,100 for this piece. Retail on it is $5,200. Came with full box and papers. If you haven't seen the unboxing video, definitely check it out. This is one of those watches that the box absolutely adds value, and without it, I think the value would be $200 to $300 cheaper. The papers date the original purchase of this watch to October 2017, so this is definitely a very, very minty piece. Case size is 42 mil, and with the crown, it is 44 mil. 20 mil lug width. Let's talk about the movement. The movement is using an Omega 1861. As you guys may or may not know, the first watch worn on the moon had the 321 movement in it. Then they changed it, added the 861, and then they coated that in rhodium and made it the 1861, which this watch features. But it's still a manual wind and it keeps incredible time. Very reliable movement. Speaking of timekeeping, I did 3 measures on this, and the last 2 of those measures weren't even losing a 1/10 of a second a day. And the first measure was fast 1 second. Of course, this is a chronograph. I'll show you the functions here. You push this button, that pusher there, that starts the chronograph. This subdial is counting minutes. This subdial is counting hours. I want you guys to watch the subdial at the 3 o'clock position that is counting minutes when the chronograph second hand gets to 12. Watch how cool this is when it switches over. Very, very nice. Then you press this pusher to stop the chronograph. This pusher resets the chronograph. This is not a flyback chronograph, meaning that when you start the chronograph, you can't just reset it without stopping the chronograph. You don't want to press both of these buttons at once. This is a 50-meter water-resistant watch, but being a chronograph and not having screw-down pushers, I wouldn't take this thing anywhere near water. I wouldn't swim with it. I wouldn't shower with it. It's perfectly fine to let it get rained on, but when I'm doing dishes or washing my hands, I even take it off then. The case, this thing is all stainless bracelet, stainless steel case, brushed edges here, some polished bits on the top too. Just a very attractive looking piece. The bezel has the aluminum bezel insert there, and it's kind of a smaller bezel because when they first made these watches, you know, thin, small watches were in. So the bezel is pretty small. It has the tachometer there. Crystal is plastic crystal, or hesselite as Omega likes to call it. Gets scratched easily, I'm afraid, but it does not shatter, has more shock resistance than a sapphire crystal does. The hesselite crystal definitely belongs on the Moonwatch to keep it close to the original as possible. This is probably the only modern watch that I prefer a plastic crystal in. I already have a few scratches on the crystal that you can't really see here, but you can just get some poly watch and buff them right out. Let's talk about the crown and the pushers. Mirror polish there, just gorgeous, and the Omega symbol, of course, on the crown. Probably one of the coolest case backs around. Flight qualified by NASA for all manned space missions, the first watch worn on the moon. And this watch is still flight qualified by NASA, and maybe this watch will be the first watch to go to Mars. Who knows? Let's talk about the dial, the hands. You know, for a watch that has so much going on with it, between the 3 subdials and the markers around the side, the Omega writing, Speedmaster Professional writing, the Swiss made, this watch has a very clean dial. The hands, while they might appear white on your screen, in person they are a very, very, very light shade of gray. There's a lume shot for you. Good lume, lasts a good bit. Doesn't last quite as long as the one on the Submariner, but this is pretty great lume. Probably still using that Super Luminova if I'm not mistaken. Let's check out the bracelet. Look at how beautifully the light plays on that bracelet, and the ends of the center links are mirror polished and they're very nice. When I showcased that Seamaster that I ended up flipping, it had some signs of over brushing on the brushed bits and no signs of that on this watch. Just a great looking bracelet. Onto the clasp. Easy to secure and very secure feeling when it's on, not a lot of play there. Push button to release. This part doesn't feel rough, it's nice and smooth, a modern clasp. And that's one of the things I love about this watch. It's like buying a vintage watch, but it's also like buying a modern watch. It's the best of both worlds. You know, and going back to that Seamaster, I remember this bit did feel rough, and this doesn't feel rough at all. It's not very sharp like the one on the Seamaster was. So better quality control on the Speedmaster for sure. Definitely a steel stunner and definitely a great piece. And there you have it. What an absolute incredible piece the Omega Speedmaster Professional really is. Always wanted one. Super fortunate to be able to add that to my small 3-piece luxury wristwatch collection. That wraps up another episode of It's Complicated. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, share it with your fucking friends, and I'll see you next time on another episode of It's Complicated.